Once again, a very warm welcome to the program. This is The Morning Call. I am Issiaka Ouattara. Now, a bomb ripped through a crowded market on a bridge along Nigeria's border with Cameroon on Monday, killing 9 people and injuring several others. Preliminary findings revealed that 9 people were killed, all of them being Nigerians, according to the army officer. 26 people were injured, including 21 Nigerians and 5 Cameroonians, the officer said. More details to follow on all our platforms here on Africanews. And now we move to news making waves in Ivory Coast. He was one of the leaders of the rebellion of the early 2000s. Issiaka Ouattara, known as Wattao, died on Sunday night in New York, prompting reactions from the Ivorian authorities and sources close to the former rebel leader. Guillaume Soro, the former head of the Force Nouvelle, the armed group that brought President Alassane Ouattara to power, took to Twitter on Monday and extolled the memory of one of the pillars of the 19 September 2002 rebel leader, reference to the date on which the rebellion broke out that resulted in the partition of the country until 2011, Bridget.
Oui, exactement, Nyasha. Réputé
known for his bling-bling tests, Issiaka Ouattara is arguably one of the best non-rebel zone commanders and deputy commander of the Republican Guard under the Ouattara regime. The COM zones are accused of numerous crimes during the 5 months of post-election crisis of 2010 to 2011, at the end of which Alassane Ouattara took power. Yet all of them were appointed by the new regime to key posts, and none of them have been brought to justice, much to the displeasure of the civil society. Ebrin Brou, Africanews correspondent in Côte d'Ivoire, tells us more about this.
Ebrin, bonjour.
Hello, Ebrin.
Bonjour.
Bonjour. Alors, ma première question, la mort de Wattao est loin de
Wattao's
laisser
death has not left the country indifferent. What are the first reactions? Yes, you know, the death of such a controversial character can give rise to mixed reactions. In the case of Colonel Major Issiaka Ouattara, you should know that leading personalities immediately expressed their regret and sadness at his disappearance. The Ivorian President Alassane Ouattara was taking part in a ceremony to give his vows to the Ivorian armed forces, observed minutes of silence for his younger brother, so he said, and he also promised an official funeral in Côte d'Ivoire. Guillaume Soro, who was Issiaka Ouattara, alias Wattao boss during the armed rebellion, said the deceased was one of the pillars of 19 September 2002, referring to the date on which Côte d'Ivoire was divided into 2 parts. The rebel occupied north and the south, led by former Ivorian President Laurent Gbagbo. Furthermore, Ivorian Defense Minister Ahmed Bakayoko said it was with great sadness and sorrow that he learned of the death of the former rebel. That said, it is still important to remember that the grief is not shared by all. Several people have expressed their satisfaction at the death of an executioner who allegedly committed several crimes without even being concerned by the Ivorian justice system when he was the zone commander of the rebellion in the city of Bok in the center of the city of the country. In fact, Issiaka Ouattara has several times been criticized by several international organizations, including the UN, which accused him of being directly involved in trafficking.
So tell us, as a former rebel commander, it's very well known that he was a key figure to the downfall of Laurent Gbagbo. So speak to us about how his rebellion contributions are seen and received by Ivorians.
Well, his contribution to the fall of former President Laurent Gbagbo was very critical, since Laurent Gbagbo was arrested on April 11, 2011. Issiaka Ouattara was in a prime position on the battlefield. In the pictures that have been taken around the world, we can see Wattao dressing a haggard Laurent Gbagbo in a green shirt. He later claimed to have lost several of his belongings. Well, at this level, it would still be important to remember that the pro-Ouattara forces have received major support from the French army to dislodge the former Ivorian president. So to come back to your question, I would say that even if the character because of his good Shia character, was able to seduce the Ivorian people and climb several ranks in the army, it is not the same for a significant part of the population in the south of the country. They have an unpleasant memory of Issiaka Ouattara. In fact, in spite of his bling-bling appearance and his relative kindness from which would have benefited, he was more feared than loved, as the nickname given to him testifies the big black snake.
Alors, Ebrin, on connaît la page noire.
We know the dark crimes committed during the post-election crisis as the civil society, and some victims regret that he did not have the answer for his actions before the law. Yes, with regard to the crimes allegedly committed during the post-electoral crisis by the commanders of areas of the former rebellion, you should know that for several years, local NGOs have been fighting to have them held accountable by the courts. Since soldiers close to the former government have been tried and sentenced to heavy prison terms. So for the moment, no civil society organization has expressed an opinion on the death of the former rebel, perhaps for reasons of mourning, respect for the memory of the deceased and relatives' grief. But it is clear that the former zone commander have been prosecuted in relation to the 2010 post-electoral crisis.